Hi everyone. This week I'm going to stray from the ordinary archetypal video that I do and kind of expand it into what I think of as archetypal information. Um, and I'm doing this because I've had several conversations recently with people and who've shared their struggles with inner doubt, their struggles with what I would call what Teresa of Avila referred to as your inner reptile, the inner voices that disempower you. And it's something that everybody deals with. And because it's an everybody thing, it falls into that category of an archetypal dynamic. So I want to start by describing the stages of guidance and how guidance develops in us, which is itself an archetypal passage. And this is what I call organic divinity. And then I'm going to talk about the inner reptiles and coping with inner reptiles. So I just got to make sure my phone is off, and now it is. So we are in this era now where our inner resources, our inner intuitive wiring has become, is becoming more and more developed. And you could tell by the way we speak, we get it on the inner, we refer to our inner self, we talk about that, we talk about our inner self and our interior life far more openly than did our elders of 40, 50, 60 and so on years ago. I mean, our interior space has become an active dwelling place for us. And as part of that, the landscape that the mystics have long described is now becoming, it's worthy of looking at their texts and their descriptions, because what they've described is still the landscape that we would discover, and we discover as we pursue our inner self. So I want to describe this to you in the stages that we organically develop, whether or not you believe anything. If you thought there's nothing out there, that life ends when the body dies, that's fine. You will still go through this, because it's like you could say, I don't believe in anything, but you'll still go through puberty. I mean, those beliefs have nothing to do with what our archetypal dynamics, the organic nature of how the divine has simply set up the business of the progression of life. And so this really is what I learned in my years as a medical intuitive. We are actually designed to be intuitive. We're designed, our wiring is so remarkable. And we begin with survival instincts that just awaken as we go from infancy to the early years of our lives. Our survival instincts just come to the fore because it's in our animal nature. This is divine organics. It's just in our animal nature. Our system is designed to have ways of protecting us. And as our elders teach us things like, don't touch that, it's hot, don't do this, it's sharp, don't grab the blade end of a knife, it'll hurt. These instincts are activated. Survival instincts are activated. And so they start functioning in us with our breath, with our mind, with our five senses. Our survival instincts function within our sensory system, and they become active participants in how we sense the world around us. And as we become older, other faculties in us begin to develop. Once we reach what's called the age of reason, we develop, our conscience begins to activate. Our sense of what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad, what is okay to do, what is not okay. It's not okay to lie, you have to tell the truth. So there's an inner metronome in us that goes, choo, choo, choo. And this operates according to like the law of balance, inner balance. This is okay, this is not okay, this is right, this is wrong, this is a good thing to do, this is a bad thing to do. So it's like the inner metronome. And every single person has this. And that higher form of guidance, again, it's organic. It has nothing to do with religions or God. It's just organic. It's woven into our bio-spiritual ecology, if you like that phrasing better. But that higher system is attached to conscience. So it is a guidance system that as we develop, it develops with us, and it becomes the second tier of inner guidance that operates for external safety, like don't walk on that bridge. I don't know, that doesn't feel right. I don't like that recent experience of the Titan that sank. And now there's stories coming out about people who said, I didn't know, I just felt funny, I didn't want to go on it. It didn't feel safe to me. They didn't, they had physical sensory data. Maybe they didn't like the way it looked, or they didn't trust it. But ultimately, what they said was, it didn't feel safe. That's what I'm talking about here. That metronome that said, nah, I don't think so. I don't care what data. I don't care that you could show me the statistics that say this has been under the ocean how many times and returned safely. It doesn't matter to me. I do not believe, it doesn't feel safe to me, and I'm not going. This is that second tier of survival instinct guidance. This is the kind of thing that says, I don't think I'm going to buy this house. It doesn't feel right. I don't care what the offer is. Or I think something about this place. That's how I bought my house. I saw the house I live in, and I responded like this. Before I knew any of the data about it, I simply loved the house. Even before I saw the inside of it. It was like love at first sight, and it was that kind of instinctual, I have to have this place. That is my home. And that's how I got it. I mean, it was just this gut instinct that said, you have to live there. So it was that kind of thing. I never felt that before about a house, but it was just like that. That's my place. Yeah. It was just a funny kind of feeling. It's that second tier of intuition. And it operates so many times in my life, and often you may experience it in so many different ways in relationships where you think there's something going on with this person, or, oh, I like this person. And it bypasses logic and reason. Like you don't have a logical reason why you like the person, you just do. So it goes past logic and reason. It's just a gut feeling. So this is that, and it really is located in your kind of second, third chakra area. It's not what you would call higher guidance, because there's nothing visionary about this guidance. There's nothing, futuristic. There's nothing, I guess the best word is visionary about this kind of guidance. It is basic, in the moment survival. There's nothing futuristic about it. It is like in the immediate. Don't do this. Do this. Go now. And actually, I could talk quite extensively on this because this is the sort of guidance that you really get all the time. This is the guidance that you get 24/7, that is designed to keep you healthy, to keep you balanced, to keep you on your railroad track, so that your train doesn't fall off the tracks. This is the guidance that you even get when you're ordering from a menu and it says, "Come on, don't you're over the salt intake, you're over your sugar intake." This is that kind of guidance that is just always present, always present. The one that says you can't spend that, you're over your budget. Da da da. It's that it goes into your conscience. Your conscience, it's your monitor. It is this type of guidance that you could say it's a bit of your higher self, it's a bit of your guardian self. It is this guidance. And if you listen to it, inevitably you'll say, God, I'm so glad I made that decision. I'm so glad I didn't make that decision. I had this funny feeling. And inevitably, if you don't listen to it, you'll say, I just knew it. I don't know why I did that. I didn't listen. I eclipsed it. And this kind of guidance comes in very fast. And I'll tell you another thing about guidance. It doesn't repeat itself. It's not like it'll give you a whole lot of details. Guidance doesn't work that way. It doesn't give you guarantees. It doesn't give you details. It doesn't give you the kind of stuff, because it's not your mommy talking to you. It's not a friend talking to you. It's an organic, how do I call it? It's the way divine organics works. It gives you data, and it can't interfere with what you choose. It can simply provide, and as a moment, a second, a microsecond of a hint, it can shine a light on something, but what you decide is up to you. And that's how organic divinity works. The invisible world is not allowed to make our decisions. And really, we can say the way they can influence our decisions is they can only utilize what is already operating in us. And this is really important to understand. Heaven can only utilize what you've already got working inside of you. If you don't have a conscience that's well-oiled and operating, heaven can't suddenly activate your conscience. It just can't. People always will say comments like, how can all this evil happen? How can that? How can that? But human beings can turn off their conscience. They can tell themselves all kinds of narratives like, oh, poor me. I had such a bad childhood. Da-da-da-da. I'm so wounded. Blah, 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 blah. So I get to do all kinds of horrible things. And I have a right to it. I'm so hurt. All this nonsense people tell themselves as permission to be monsters in the world, to be monsters, to go and hurt other people. And they turn off their conscience. And there is no way that the non-physical world can eclipse that. That's the rules of life. Those are the rules of life. Heaven can only work with you to the extent that you are a well-oiled machine. Those are the rules. And heaven never breaks the rules. So if someone's decided that it's their choice to be a monster, it's their choice to be a monster. And there it is. Okay. So at the second level, the second tier, I want to back up here for a minute and say, that said, heaven never gives up on a human being. So I don't know what kind of help is always sent, or what kind of guidance, or how conversations or thoughts might filter into a monster's head or into someone's head, but I know that is ongoing too. I know it's ongoing too, because heaven never stops pouring light into even the darkest person. Like I was listening to the news, and I'm sure you are too, about all that's going on with the upheaval in Russia with the Wagner Group and all of this. And someone was saying that one of the reasons for this uprising was that the Wagner Group felt that they weren't allowed to be cruel enough. Yeah, they weren't allowed to be cruel enough. Cruel enough. And the whole reason to have a mercenary army is that they don't have to play by any of the like Geneva Convention or any of that, and do whatever they want, so they can torture people and do whatever. And they weren't allowed to be cruel enough. Who are these monsters, right? But they turn off something inside of themselves. Maybe it's for money, maybe it's for whoever, whatever way they numb their conscience. But believe me, it is this mechanism that they simply dismantle inside of themselves. Dismantle it. They dismantle their humanity. And that is also what operates at this level. The third level is a level of inner guidance when a human being starts to engage in inner conversation, when you yourself begin to pursue guidance. And it can start by you not even realizing that's what you're doing. And it can start by the sort of questions that you begin to ask about your life. Like, I wonder what the purpose of my life is, or what else can I do? The questions you ask begin to become more what we could call spiritually meaty. You put more meat on the bones. They're questions that can't be where the answers can't be found in books or in ordinary conversation. You are now going into the territory of the soul, even if you don't know it. But what you're seeking is the kind of inner guidance that requires a higher light, that requires assistance from your guides, from your angelic companions. The kind of knowledge that human beings simply don't have. And that kind of inner guidance, you may be in the territory of wanting what to do ethically, morally, emotionally. You may wonder, do I divorce this person? Do I marry this person? You're in the higher altitudes of your life, where the issues are expanding beyond something like, do I buy a car? You can get rid of a car. Do I buy a house? You could sell a house. But when you get more into the level of bonding your life to another human being, making decisions that have ethical or moral consequences, this kind of guidance brings you inside where you wonder, I'm involving a part of myself that is more than my wallet. Now I'm involving my more than myself. And this, now you're in the area of your true power, of your deeper power, of your power to impact the lives of others, the life of yourself, your future. It's a very different level of decision making, if you know, and you know what I mean. And that's the kind where it's so easy to get lost in the storm of your life. That's where so oftentimes I'll say to people, what would be so useful is a spiritual director at that point. To have someone to sit with and say, I'm at a turning point and I don't know how to work my way through this ethical crisis. I'm at a place where no matter what I decide, some people are going to be disappointed, but am I in the business of keeping people happy, or am I in the business of listening to my guidance? what is the journey of life about? And not every person can answer that. You see, that comes from a deeper, richer kind of inner correspondence. So that's when you are needing to reach for guidance and say, I need help. I need help. I need to feel what is right for me. And again, you start sensing, and it begins to resonate in your heart as your guidance goes up. And it includes now your gut, your heart. You're just activating the higher and higher parts of yourself. You are literally turning your lights on. And the last level is, higher guidance. The kind of guidance that comes in, that is visionary, that is downloads that come in, that have to do with the caretaking of the well-being of others, or what you need to do that you didn't see coming. The guidance out of the clear blue. Now, all of this, another way to look at this is what happens in the journey of self-empowerment. The organic journey of empowerment. As we seek to empower ourselves, part of that journey of empowerment is the development of guidance from within. Is this a capacity to realize how high functioning we are in the world behind our eye instead of in front of our eye? How much we start relying on our interior sight. And then what starts to make sense, more and more sense, are the teachings of like Buddha, who said this world's an illusion. It changes in the blink of an eye. As I said to this young man today, everything that you're studying in college is going to be old 6 months after you get out of college, but what won't change are the inner qualities in yourself that you develop: self-reliance, the belief in yourself, knowing you can adapt to whatever's coming your way. The information you learn, that's going to shift with more and more research, but your capacity to say, I can utilize, I can keep up with anything, that goes with you wherever you go. Your inner skills are as vital, if not more vital, than anything that you can pick up on the outside world. Buddha says these things change. You think Putin thought his world would change in the blink of an eye, but it did. Just like that. Just like that. And I'm sure he thought there was a time when he thought it would never happen. Of course it can happen. Everybody's world can change in the blink of an eye. That's what Buddha says. But the capacity to have a strong inner world that says no matter what happens on the outer world, I know that that's all illusion. Even that will change in the blink of an eye. Nothing in the outer world is stable because we are the engines of what happens on our outer world. And what the journey of empowerment is about is getting that truth and then managing that truth. Which brings me now to what the topic of this is about. In what I started out as the topic. It's what happens when I get onto another topic that I think is so interesting, but I wanted to speak about inner reptiles. Along this path of empowerment, everybody encounters inner reptiles. That voice that will always try to stop you from being your full self. The voice that will say, it's not good enough. Or you shouldn't try that. Or what will people say? Or whatever your inner reptiles say. Or you're just a bad person, or you're just never enough, or no matter what you do, it won't be good enough. This is the inner reptile. Everybody has inner reptiles. That's what Teresa of Avila, and she said, when they get in, they see better at night. which means they haunt us at night. When we go to sleep, that's when the reptile is the loudest. And excuse me, it's very dry. And that is the truth. And so as you develop this inner rapport with yourself, and you start relying on yourself, one of the inner reptiles that's very common is to say, "What? Why would you believe in yourself? Why would you trust yourself?" And that's a reptile. And that's the kind of reptile that you have to get through. And you have to say so that's the reptile. I was expecting that reptile. You have to break through that. You have to break through that. And the way, honestly, the way to break through a reptile is you can't reason with a reptile. You can't think about it. Can you reason with a gecko? You can't reason with a reptile. But they are bullies. Reptiles are bullies. So what happens is when you hear a reptile, when it comes up in you, and it says something like, like your intuition gives you guidance about, why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? And that reptile shows up and says, oh, but you might fail. You might fail. That's exactly when you should get archetypal. Stand back and say, so this is that mechanism. This is that there is absolutely no truth to me failing. This is that reptile. So I am going to do it. I am going to do it. That's simply a reptile voice in my head, and I'm not going to let it stop me. There is no truth behind it. And that's when you must break through action. Action destroys reptiles. Action, positive action, always destroys reptiles. Remember, you cannot rationalize with them. You can't think them through. You have to have a positive course of action, a positive choice. No matter how small, it has to be a positive choice that counteracts the reptile. And it doesn't matter how big or small, it just has to be positive, and it counteracts the reptile. And that would be enough. That would be enough for you to experience how fast a reptile is done away with in you. And this, you'll feel the power come into your gut, not back, but you'll feel yourself feeling, wow, I just wiped out a negative thought form, and you'll feel it. I promise you'll feel it. And every time you do, you're incredibly more empowered to face the next reptile. This is how empowerment works. This is how you build that sense of trust in yourself. So this is like an archetypal lesson in what we all go through, what this journey of life looks like in the microcosm of the empowerment of every human being. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you for next lesson.